This is the Bear Country Outdoors Barely a Podcast. I'm your host, Doug Joyce, and with me is James Forsland and Chris Cantrell. Thanks for joining.
Welcome back to another Barely a Podcast episode. We have a very special guest today.
We do.
It was very hard to tie her down. After 2 years of hard persistence, we finally got her at the expo here. So, Jana Waller.
I'm so excited to be here. We've been friends for a long time, connected through our passion of bear hunting. You know, I just think people who are as into bear hunting as we all are, we tend to gravitate towards each other and support one another. And I'm just super excited to be here. Yeah. I come from that place of, well, I don't think I'll ever hunt a bear. I really do. Like when I grew up in Wisconsin bow hunting my whole life, whitetails, hunting pheasants. And I was like, people hunt them way up north in Wisconsin. It wasn't until almost 16 years ago now I moved to Montana, got my first bear, and like literally, I just shot my 19th. Like I'm so addicted to bear hunting.
Really?
She's got you beat, Chris.
If there's any podcast I'm so excited to be on, it's this one.
Yeah.
It's this one.
So I just shot my 22nd bear.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I've been bear hunting since I was probably 16 years old.
Okay.
And, I grew up in the western states. Washington's a big bear hunting state.
Right.
Idaho, hunted Montana. I haven't hunted Colorado yet.
I haven't either. And not for bears.
Which, by the way, you got to go over to Hal's booth. And
I did.
Did you put in for the special Colorado bear hunt?
Yeah. Yeah,
okay.
Of course. And if I win it, I'd probably donate it to a veteran. But I put in for all that stuff.
She's
Hal's great.
Bad right now. That's gonna go.
Chris is I'm buying as many tickets as I can.
Well, when you have, like a show and stuff, people are, it's rigged. They always think that kind of thing. But no, I'm very supportive of Howl. They do amazing things over there. They have done so much in such a short amount of time.
Yeah.
We see pop-up groups all the time of causes in the conservation world. Pop up, disappear after a couple of years.
Right.
Howl has done such a good job of engaging people and telling them we need action. And this is what you need to do. You need to contact your legislator, or you need to send this email, or you need to go to this meeting, or attention Washington people, attention Coloradoans. I think they've done a really good job of gathering the troops in a very short amount of few years.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. 2 years in, and they're like making waves like wildfire.
They really are.
And we really need them.
Yes.
We needed that specific organization to run that kind of a program because we didn't have that.
Yep.
And a lot of the anti-hunting organizations have those same kind of programs set up where they send out chain emails to people.
Oh, yeah.
And that's how they get so much support behind it. But, I mean, obviously, they do things a little different. They like to use a lot of lies and deceitfulness in it,
Yep.
But
propaganda, big time. And their number one tool is a predator, whether it's the wolf or a bear or the mountain lion. It is their number one tool. My husband always said this when he was actually – so Utah has a board of directors. They're a board versus a commission. Like I was a Montana wildlife commissioner. Utah has a board, and he was chairman of the board and was on that group for 6 years. And he picked up his phone one day, and it was a New York paper. I don't know if it was the New York Times or what it was. And they were questioning him on the wolf. And he said, I believe the wolf is the Anti's silver bullet to kill the culture of the West. That quote went viral, and this was years back. And he just got brutal hate mail from all over the world, really. But I think that is one of the most true statements one could make, is that the wolf is the silver bullet to kill the culture of the West. It really is. It's just propaganda.
Yep.
But same thing, we've got to band together to save predator hunting, whether it's the wolf, whether it's coyote contests, whether it's bears. They use it because it's not as understood and accepted as deer hunting or turkey hunting. People can sometimes, even if they're non-hunters, wrap their brains around that.
Right.
But then they see a bear and they think it's just a trophy. Right. All we do is pose with it and throw it away. They don't. Right. And same with lions and wolves. Well, we don't eat wolves, but wolves eat what we do eat, so they need to be managed.
Right.
Well, Randy Newberg eats wolves, apparently. He
No.
tells me. Yep.
He doesn't.
He says he'll pack out any wolf off of the mountain anywhere. He said that's like the meat is most important. I'm like, really?
Are you
Dude,
serious?
He's got a wild story about eating wolf. I guess he's eaten a bunch of them.
Really?
Yeah, we just had him on the podcast, and he was talking about eating wolves.
This is a true story. I'm in Montana. I shoot my first wolf. I'm super excited.
Yeah.
I'm jazzed up. Take it back to camp, and getting her all, as Stephen Ranella would say, disarticulated.
Yeah.
And a good buddy of mine is hunting with me, who's my orthopedic surgeon. Okay. So obviously someone much, much smarter than me. And that sneaky little bugger, he texts my wife and says, Chris shot a wolf, he's going to eat it. And next thing you know, my phone blows up, and my wife is like, you are not eating that wolf. And then she starts, again.
Sending you parasite articles?
Yes, and all the stuff. And she's like, you're going to get all these things in your body, and we can't fix them. And I'm like, so I felt really bad. There's like 2 things I have shot that I didn't eat. And one was that wolf, and then I shot a badger there, and when I opened up, everything was green.
Oh.
And I was like,
Well, it really is misunderstood. There's a couple of things. I obviously don't eat coyotes. If you do, I do have a friend who does and says it was great. Jason Tarwater works for the NWTF. He said he did a crock pot thing, and it was great. I'm not believing him. And the reason being is not because of taste, or it's the whole parasite thing.
Right.
And after I've done this deep dive of toxicity, molds, and parasites in the last few years of my life, that scares me. So I just went on my first grizzly hunt this year and shot a beautiful big bear, 9-foot interior grizzly.
Super jealous.
Oh my gosh, it was the most exciting, crazy hunt I've ever been on. And I said, right the first day we got there, I said, Lance, is there any way that we can at least cook some up over a campfire or anything? He goes, you absolutely do not want to eat these bears. He said they have the highest concentration of trichinosis of any of the bears in Alaska. We are an interior. And he said, you'll see, we skinned my bear. You could literally see worms underneath the hide between that first layer. I filmed it. It was unreal. Yeah. And so I did not eat my grizz. Some people do, though. Like in Alaska, they definitely eat grizzly. But let's be truthful. I'm not out there to collect meat. I'm not going to lie and say it's a meat hunt. That's why I'm there. No, you know why I'm there? For the adventure, but to also save the moose calves, the caribou herds, the muskox calves. Like they do a damn. Lance said, and he knows more. He is Grizzly Master 101. He said a big boar grizzly will eat up to 30 moose calves a year if they're there, if they have the food source. 30 moose calves.
In one area, that's
in one area of Alaska.
Yeah.
So that is why we hunt. It's predator management.
Yeah.
And and I stand very tall behind that. There are people like, if you don't eat it, you should completely disagree with that philosophy.
Yeah.
Well, we're fighting the good fight here in Washington. We had a couple lawsuits because they took our spring bear hunt away. Totally just feelings based, no science.
Yep.
Our fishing game biologist said, hey, we need these hunts to manage the population. We have some terrible commissioners. We just had a change of governor. I'm hoping he works with us. As you know, Washington is very, 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 very blue.
Yep.
And unfortunately, a lot of that is anti-hunting.
Yep.
And so we've been fighting against that. We actually just rolled out, James and Doug and myself rolled out a life membership option for Sportsman's Alliance for Washington State.
Oh, nice.
So we're the testing ground. You're not in Washington, so you can't participate yet. Okay. But literally just this week.
So a lifetime membership with the Sportsman's Alliance?
Yeah.
That's great.
So
Sportsman's Alliance is a group that I've known about for 15 years, and I think a lot of hunters aren't aware of because they're very behind the scenes.
Right.
They're in the courtrooms fighting for us, and people don't understand that. And they are just great people. I've known them for years, and that's where sometimes we need to fight. It's not necessarily species specific, right? So if you're in Utah, you love mule deer, and you're usually a part of the MDF or SFW, or you're in other states, Rocky Mountain elk in Montana, but they're not species specific. But the Alliance does great things behind the scenes. I mean, what people don't understand, groups like HSUS, the Humane Society of the United States, they are not out saving puppies and kittens.
No.
They're not out, protecting and funding their shelters. First off, they've got a huge red flag on what's that watchdog website that criticizes or takes a look at nonprofits and gives you a rating. I can't remember the name of the watchdog site, but about 4 years ago, they came out with red flag warnings on HSUS, finally exposing them for the corruption that they are. They're literally out there. They have millions and millions of dollars every year to stop hunting. That's what they do. They don't have anything to do with shelters. I am very supportive of our local humane societies. But if it's local, walk down to your local humane society, donate blankets, towels, food, dishes, whatever they need, a little bit of money, whatever. I'm all for that. But HSUS is the biggest anti-hunting group out there. And they're trying to just shut us down. And they instate all these ridiculous court cases every year of how hunting with dogs is cruel.
Right.
Not just bear hunting with hounds. I'm talking bird hunting, duck hunting.
Right.
Those dogs live for that. It's like saying, you can't take a bloodhound out into the woods and trail with them because it's torturous. Are you kidding? They live for that.
Yeah.
And so groups like that are constantly instating these ridiculous court cases, but groups like Sportsman's Alliance are funding the attorneys to help pay for fighting it on our side.
Which is nice because a lot of the nonprofits that we're associated with, they can't take that step into the political realm or the lawsuit realm.
Litigation.
So, so as far as, to be honest, like James and I have been to 1,000 meetings. We fight in Washington, and some of our fishing game commissioners, they don't care. As soon as they see a rugged, handsome man like James walk in with a hunting T-shirt on or a camel hat, then they shut it down. They don't listen to us. So we had to go the litigation route, which I don't like that.
Yeah.
Personally, I just want to go to work and try and raise a family and be a decent human being. I don't want to sue other people, but if they're not going to listen to me and they're going to take stuff from us, that's what we're going to do.
They're not supportive of the North American model of conservation.
100%.
We have wildlife because we hunt wildlife.
Right.
And our hunt, not just predator management, but as a whole, and where that money goes, and all the money from the licenses and the duck stamps and the tags, and we're the ones we hunters are the ones who should be thanked by the bird watchers of the world, by the hikers of the world, because there's wildlife because of hunting.
100%.
Truly is.
Well,
and it's a complex issue. We all know that with biologists, in every single state trying to figure out the ungulate predator versus prey relationship. It's complicated.
Right.
But it is hunters' dollars that are truly supporting that whole thing across the country.
Right.
And when you get, like you said, blue commissioners or board of directors in there and legislators, and I'm sure you're fighting a fight.
Yeah, it's stacked right now, but the way that things are going right now, it could look better for us in the near future if we continue to keep pushing forward.
Yeah, we've been raising a stink. So
you have to.
We were the battleground state for the North American model of conservation. We literally went and talked on Randy's podcast about this, and it's hard because I feel like we're all like pretty level-headed, even thinking kind of folks. Like, okay, if you have something to say, I'll listen, I'll process that. I'll be like, oh, that's a good idea. Or sometimes I go, where did you come up with this? That's a terrible idea.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So so they took away our spring bear. We have tons of wolves in Washington now. They want to reintroduce grizzly bears.
Yeah, I saw that.
And then they want to cut out all predator hunting.
Yeah.
Mountain lions.
It's a brilliant plan for the anti-hunters because they're just going to wipe all the deer and elk
and then there's no ungulates to hunt.
Yeah.
Like that's the plan there.
It's a great plan.
Yeah, for them.
Because that's what'll happen. And then what do we do?
The sad thing is in their plan, they convince. We're all human beings are passionate people, right? We want to get behind a cause. And I literally look at these anti-hunting groups, especially when I was a Montana commissioner, and I could see, sometimes they don't have any. This is going to sound rude, and I'm probably not articulating this right, but a lot of times they don't have anything else going on.
Right.
So they're like, this is my fight.
Right.
I love the wolf so much. I've been to these groups meetings where I had to go, and I respectfully want to hear what they have to say. What perspective are they coming from? And there are some that are great. Like I did a Zoom call one time with these women who run a photography business out of Yellowstone. I totally understand their perspective. They want the wolves on the landscape. People fly from all over the world to photograph wolves with them. And there is a place for them, absolutely. But they've got to allow us to manage them outside the park.
Right.
When they wander outside the park, they need to be managed. If that pack is having a pack, year after year. That poor elk cow, she's having one, maybe two babies with a less than 50% chance of survival. We just can't keep up with the wolves, so we just need to be able to manage them. I understand their perspective. I listen to them, but that's not who I'm talking about right now. But a lot of the other people who are just part of the anti-hunting train or the wolf-loving train or the grizzly-loving train, I don't believe they rarely step foot in the backcountry and have any idea of the repercussions of too many wolves and too many bears. They don't. They are just listening to the propaganda of their group, and they think they're doing something good. And I respect that they're getting involved and they think that they're fighting a good fight. But in reality of it all, like I've even had to educate my family members. One time a couple years ago, I was at my mom's house, and I'm going through her mail, and I'm like, Save the Wolf postcard. What, Mom? How did you get on this mailing list? What in the world? If you want to save the wolf, you need to join one of these conservation groups, that I'm a part of. And she's like, I don't know. And she probably gave like $10 to get the stickers from the World Wildlife
Right.
Federation or something, and then
Right.
they sell all those list
Yeah.
names, right? But I'm like, Mom, sit down. We're gonna talk, and on the postcard. But I really wanted to see, like, how are they reaching people, like my mom,
Yeah.
who's just the sweetest lady who doesn't know any better.
Right.
And on the postcard was the cutest 3 little wolf puppies in the snow you've ever seen.
Yep.
And on the back, it's all this propaganda BS about their numbers and the harsh winters, and we need to save them. They're critically becoming endangered. All this
Right.
bogus, you know.
Right.
But I thought, oh my, Ma, sit down. We need to have a talk.
Well, they're good at
Yes.
getting the message out the way they want it, and then kind of manipulating people.
Yeah.
I mean, a perfect example is we went and hunted Montana this year for elk and deer, which was awesome, by the way.
Yeah, love
And
Montana.
we were driving back, or I was driving back on I-90, and off of I-90, I can't remember where it was, but there was
billboard.
the big billboard,
Yep.
the grizzly bear.
Yep.
And it said, "Stop fur trapping in Montana," and it
Yep.
had a picture of a grizzly bear.
Yeah.
You can't fur trap grizzly bear. You can't even hunt grizzly bear.
No.
in the
You
state
know
of
why they're
Montana.
doing that? So, and I learned this as a commissioner, is it's because it's very intricately woven that with trapping, with the hound issue, how it's written right now, if you, let's say, so they recently, just in the last couple of years, you guys know this, they allowed hound hunting for black bears in certain units in Montana.
Yeah.
Right.
If you accidentally dump your dogs and they chase a grizz, that's considered take. Yes.
Really?
So there's a lot of that's probably, and same with trapping. I mean, if you're putting a coyote trap or something, that most likely that grizz is just going to rip it off.
Right.
You know, depending on the types of, let's be real, depending
Yeah.
on the
Even
types
a
of traps.
foothold for a wolf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
It's
just
not
gonna, like,
be stuck in there. They'd be poof.
Doink. Yeah. But it's considered take. And so what they're doing that, and a lot of it is with the lynx and bobcat issue too. They're using that to stop trapping. They're using that to stop hounds. They're using the red tape, intricacy, legally written BS. And that's probably why they put that bear. And everyone most people know we're not trapping grizzlies.
Right.
But
if you're educated, but a lot of these
Yeah.
people are not educated.
You're right, you're right.
You know, we know.
yeah,
But-
but it's all propaganda.
Yeah.
It's just bogus. But
It's hard to get behind any of that stuff. Like even when they show up to our meetings.
yeah.
And it's not everything they say I disagree with.
No, me neither.
necessarily.
Nope.
You know, I like having pristine, beautiful things. I like seeing wildlife. But I also know a lot more about the intricate balance that it takes to keep that wildlife healthy. So,
Yeah. I think wolves are beautiful. I truly do. I think they're gorgeous creatures. I think they're so intelligent. But I also think that they need to be managed. When you see footage like I've seen there's a couple of very anti-wolf guys out there in Montana that have been around for 20 years, documenting Yellowstone. I have a friend who filmed, I think it was 33 different bulls being taken down in the course of a month in Yellowstone. The
Oh,
footage
my.
is unbloodable. It is
Right.
hard to watch.
Oh, yeah.
These wolves are hamstringing these bulls. They're biting them on the nose, surrounded by 8 wolves, playing with them.
Yeah.
Blood's dripping all over. It's just,
Right.
it's gruesome and it's hard to watch. But it also is very eye-opening to see, like,
Yeah.
how brutal it can really be. And or you see the footage. I just recently saw a video of the pack surrounding that big bison herd in the snow.
Right.
When it comes snow time, it's so easy pickings for those wolves.
Right.
They're running on top of the snow.
Yeah.
The big moose, the bison, the big elk, they're sinking,
Yeah.
and they can't keep up. And it's just easy pickings.
Right.
I have a friend, Joe, who's a helicopter pilot in Montana, who's filmed some amazing stuff. He was a fish and game helicopter pilot.
Oh, nice.
Amazing stuff with wolves taking down big game in the winter and just how easy it is. They just got to get them into a canyon with snow and
Yeah.
Well, I think the thing is, on our anti-hunting side of things, they want preservation, right? They don't want any sort of management. Just let it be, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is,
Rewilding.
yeah, thank you.
that's what they call it.
That's what they call
Yeah,
it. Rewilding.
Rewilding.
Yeah.
Oh,
So-
that sounds so wonderful.
So if we're not going to manage, we put these. So we're reintroducing these super predators.
Yeah.
And they are super predators.
Oh, yeah.
The deer aren't ready for them. The elk aren't ready for them. The moose aren't ready for them. Even the black bears aren't ready for the wolves. And we had a massive cougar influx population down in the blues. And the thing is, they don't want to manage them in their super predators. Well, why do they manage us, the hunters?
Right.
Because we're a predator,
Right.
right?
Yep.
And we're going out there, and I think we're pretty heavily handed when it comes to management.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Could you imagine if
all
you
the
just let
rules
this,
and restrictions that
Yeah.
are put on out? Yeah, exactly.
Say-
Which we all agree need to be there.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
we should not be a free for all.
No.
But we're managed. Just I agree with you on
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
So it doesn't make any sense. And when you bring that up to people, they're just like, no hunting, no
Say-
killing.
You're saving the animal. You're saving an individual animal.
Yeah,
Is-
and then
is the problem is they can't get past that.
Yeah.
Like,
the anthropomorphizing
Yes.
of
Yeah.
the wolf and the grizzly bear, and they're just cuddly, and we just want to
Oh,
love
it's
them.
the
and-
Disney syndrome.
Yeah.
It really
Ugh.
is. Yeah.
the
it is.
Disneyfication,
Yeah.
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 as Robbie calls it.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, it's funny. I do come from that. I don't think I'll ever hunt a black bear, and why I love it so much is and it can be hard to explain to people. It's just the whole process of it. You got cabin fever already,
Right.
Like, and I feel bad for you guys because the spring bear hunt's my favorite because you've got
Yeah.
cabin fever. You want to get out,
Yeah.
but I run my own baits in Idaho. I spot and stalk Montana. I've hunted black bears, all over Alaska, Saskatchewan, Alberta, and it's just so great to finally get outdoors. Right, the
Right.
sun is shining. There's snow cap on the mountains. It's so much fun. You see all this other wildlife, and then and it's just nothing like when you throw your binos up and you see up that black dot
Right.
move,
Yeah.
or you're like stump, move,
Yep.
stump. Oh, what is it? By
Right.
the way, I love my stump shirt. And there's just nothing like it. And it is truly misunderstood how delicious the meat is. People
Right.
don't understand. There's so many ways to use it.
It was really surprising. So obviously I've hunted a lot, and then I got signed on with James here a couple years ago, and we started hanging out morning. And I've never really targeted bears. Like I've shot a fair amount of bears, but then I started targeting bears with James, and then like this guy is a foodie to the nth degree.
Oh, you
right?
are? I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
I love cooking.
Oh my gosh! And
I
so
wish I did.
So he'd bring his kids over to my house, and my wife and his wife are sitting over there, and the whole time we're just like cooking all like 50 different kinds of meat, 50 different
That's
kinds
so
of ways,
great.
and it is incredible. It is so much better than I thought.
Yeah.
And I liked it before.
Yeah.
Right. But I was like, oh, you want bear steak? I'm, meh, you know. And
Yeah.
now I'm just like, I would love a bear steak.
I have to admit, I'm the laziest cook. And John and I are gone so much that I'm a good quick cook. But I'm not one of these, 4-hour preparation.
Right.
Yeah, no. I like easy. I like Mississippi pot roast with everything, right? You dump it in the,
Right.
8 hours later, your bear is the most amazing thing you've ever had.
Yeah.
So my friend Shelly Meyer has a cooking show on Carbon TV. It's called Shelly's Game Kitchen. She has such unique recipes, like their sandhill crane and
Wow.
pheasant soup and just all really cool stuff. Well, she came over a couple weeks ago and we filmed our first episode together, and we filmed Oso Barilla. It's bear tacos.
Oh,
and
yeah.
so she did it though in a pressure cooker. She texted me beforehand, "Do you have a pressure cooker?" I'm like, "Girl, you know I have a crock pot. That's it." So she had to bring her pressure cooker. But in 1 hour it was done. And she had spices I'd never even heard of, like, because I'm just
Really?
not in the foodie world. But I'm telling you what, you guys will have to watch it. She said the episode will come out in the next month or two, but it was the most delicious bear meat tacos I've ever had. The flavor was unreal.
Really?
Yeah, and I have got 3 spices in my kitchen. Like, I'm not creative like that, but these were amazing. And if you're a foodie, you're going to
Yeah.
get so into this recipe. And we cooked them in duck fat.
Oh,
So
nice.
I'm like,
Ooh.
cool.
Right up
I'm
my
looking
alley.
at her jar of duck fat, and it has no weird smell. It has no weird taste. It's super mild, super healthy.
Huh.
And I'm like, where in the world do you get duck fat?
Yeah.
She goes, Walmart. And I'm like,
Really?
No way, really?
no way. Yeah, Walmart. You can get,
Of all
it's in a
places.
jar with a little Walmart duck fat, pure duck fat. That's all it is.
He has
Rendered duck fat.
He obviously, being a foodie, he has jars and jars and jars, which he's given me
Of rendered bear fat.
of
Yeah.
rendered bear fat.
Yeah.
And I cook with it, and I thought like, and I use it all the time.
Yeah.
It
It's
is
so
awesome.
it's so clean.
Mhm.
There,
Very
I mean,
clean.
if there's anything that the RFK is going to mass blast to the
Right.
world, it's all the toxins in our food. Like, I'm so excited that he got in because
100%.
he is going to blow the doors off of all this bogus
Oh, yeah.
governmental food,
Yeah.
what they say is good for us, what isn't good for us, all the toxins, the glyphosates, everything.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited about that. But it's really opened up my eyes in the last couple of years of all the crap that's in your home. Like, cooking sprays are so bad for you.
Yeah.
You know, from beauty products to cleaning products to what's in our food. But if you can cook with a clean source like bear fat or duck fat,
Right.
I mean, that's how that's how the cave people did it,
Yeah.
like back in the days, but
You're right.
without all the toxic chemicals. That's a beautiful thing.
It's definitely a lot of people don't understand that bear fat really is a clean oil.
Yeah.
It's not. It doesn't have a nasty smell to it. It doesn't. It's a high. I wouldn't say it's a high heat.
Yeah. No.
Because it smokes once it gets
Right.
really hot.
Right.
So you got to keep cooking
You don't want
lower
that burn.
heat. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you overburn it, then it kind of nasty
Yeah.
flavor. But
Yeah.
if you just cook with it normal,
Yeah.
totally useful for
It's
just about
huge
everything.
for baking.
Mhm.
Like I have
Baking,
friends
yeah.
in Missoula that they make cookies and pastries and
Yep.
breads and even candles and soaps, and they use their rendered bear fat for everything.
Best pie crust. But yeah, the thing about bear meat too is people don't realize that it's first of all, it's edible, right?
Yep.
That's a misconception.
Yep.
But also the texture and just the way it pulls apart is different than deer. It's different than elk. It's not bad. It's definitely it's a little oilier, the meat, but it
I
kind of
like.
holds.
Yeah, me too. I was just gonna say,
it holds more moisture and more flavor. think.
When I make my favorite recipe, if anyone asks me, is Mississippi pot roast because it's so easy. I feel
yeah.
like if I can make anything, if I can make something, anyone can make it.
So tell us how you make it.
Okay, you throw your bear roast in.
Okay.
And this is all it is: a quarter cup of water. I don't even add the water if it's frozen. But if
Okay.
it's if you've thawed it out already or it's a fresh bear roast, put it in your crock pot with a quarter cup of water. You add a packet of ranch dressing, a packet of au jus. It's
Okay.
just a dress, it's
Yeah.
in the dressing aisle. Half a stick to a stick of butter, depending on how much you like of butter.
I like butter.
And pepperoncinis. That's it. Just a handful. I actually love
I
pepperoncinis.
like that,
So
yeah.
I put probably half a jar, quarter of a
like
jar.
sliced pepperoncinis? Whole
Yep, just
pepperoni?
sliced in the
Okay,
jar.
All right.
And that is literally it. And you set it on high for 8 hours. And everyone knows with most people know with bear meat, you have to cook it 160, I think, degrees
Right.
is or better.
65,
But when
yeah.
you're crock potting it, you're fully cooking it.
Yeah.
There's no worry about trick
No
or any-
question about
Right.
it.
No,
Yep.
not at all. And it literally just shreds. It is way better with bear than elk. So I had the exact same recipe with an elk roast. The elk's still good, and it's in
Right.
the gravy, but it doesn't shred, like you just said. It's kind of a drier roast.
I was going to say, I feel like it's drier
It's
when
drier.
you do the crock, yeah.
The one that's the best is bear.
Yeah.
And I challenge anyone that if they don't like bear meat to try that recipe, because even my husband who loves, it's a mental thing with him. With cats, like I love mountain lion.
Right.
Cats and bears, he's just weird about it. He still eats it, but he loves to razz me on it. The Mississippi pot roast bear recipe, he even loves.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
It's easy. I used to, as I'd be running out the door, to take the kids to school or something, I would grab a frozen bear roast, throw it in the crock pot,
Yeah.
dump 2 beers in there,
Yeah.
cover it in garlic salt, and then just take off out the door. It's that easy, and it's the meat is that good that tastes
And then your
good.
kids get a really good night's sleep because of the beer.
Right. Exactly. It cooks down.
I know,
It's
yeah.
fine.
Pro tip.
Yeah.
We've talked about a lot of conservation stuff. We've talked about food stuff. I want to talk about some bear hunting stuff. 'Cause
'Kay.
you went on that grizzly bear hunt, and that it makes me and both Chris super jealous
PB
because
and
we
jealous,
still
yeah.
haven't that's
Yeah.
on the bucket list.
Yeah.
That's my name of my episode. It's
Bucket
called
List.
Bucket List Part
Yeah.
1 and Bucket List Part 2.
And not only you, but
My
John
husband.
got
Yeah.
one too, right?
It was, the funny thing is it was all John's. I've always had it unattainable in my mind because
Right.
it's expensive.
It's very
the
expensive.
Grizz hunt's expensive.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do the Russia thing. I mean, I travel enough. I don't want to go to Russia or Kamchatka
Right.
or whatever. So when John started talking about it, it was I think 3 or 4 years ago. He's like, I really want to do it. I really want to do it. And I'm like, go for it. Life is short. And
Yeah.
both of us are not getting any younger, And so we stopped by Lance's booth. Freelance Outdoors. Lance is, I think it's safe to say he's killed more grizzlies than any Alaska outfitter. He's been around forever. Lance Kronberger.
Okay.
Freelance Outdoors. So we stopped by his booth. We have a ton of friends who've gone with them and have had a trip of a lifetime. So, like I say with any outfitter, you need to vet them.
Yeah.
Right.
There are bad outfitters out there, but
Oh,
there's
for
also
sure.
amazing outfitters.
Right.
And so we started talking to him, and as we're sitting there talking, I'm like, John said, so what if Jana came along? What would, she'll film it for the show. We probably can't bring the cameraman just logistically wise.
Right.
And he's like, yeah, let's do it. We could do a 2-on-1. So we just did it. And people might say oh, that's so far out of my budget. We put money down for 3 years, just a little bit at a time. And you got to make it happen.
Right.
And like anything, if you want that muscle car, if you want that cabin, if you want that little track, whatever, you want that horse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're often not necessities. They're,
Jana, you live
but-
one time.
Huh?
We're full tilt like a Peterbilt on everything.
Yep.
Everything you just said, I'm like, if I want the car, I'm going to buy the car.
Yeah,
if I
yeah.
want, my wife, if she wants a horse, I'm not telling her no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make it happen.
You gotta
you
do
can
it.
make it work. You might have to wait. So anyway, we put money down for 3 years. You know how when you're dreaming about a bucket list hunt like this, you have it's just everything in your mind is, let me just say this, it exceeded my dream. It was the most amazing hunt I've ever been on. Just the way it went down. And I'll be really brief here. You can go watch it. It's part 1 and part 2 bucket list on last season 6 of Skullbound Chronicles, Carbon TV, totally free. That's what I love about Carbon. It's like, everyone asks me, in 3 months, are they going to ask me to start paying? I'm like, no, free means free. Free. You can put it on your big TV too next year, Netflix or Amazon. Put Carbon TV up there and watch it.
Yeah.
So it's a 10-day hunt, and took us 4 flights to get to the backcountry of Alaska.
Wow.
And so we flew from Salt Lake to Seattle to Anchorage to a village called Kotzebue, and that's where you take a flight out to the sandbar, like a 6-seater, dump everybody off. And it was just John and I, and there was another guy going to another camp. But so you get dumped off with all your gear at the sandbar,
Yeah.
and then you get shuffled one by one by the Cub plane that's sitting there to the mountain, okay? And it's really funny because I went first, and Lance and Brandon are in camp. Just Lance and his guide, Brandon Hamilton. So it's just us 4 in camp for the 10 days. But it's funny, no one told me we were landing on top of the mountain. So I'm in this little cub, and it's all glass around you, and in my mind, I'm holding my kid because we're self-filming everything. And I'm like, we're really close to the, I'm thinking we're landing on a gravel bar again, right?
Right.
They never told me we were landing on the top of the mountain, and I'm like, wow, we're really close to the mountain. And it's really steep, except I'm trying to look ahead. Is there a runway? So yes, there was a runway, thank God. And we land and dump me and my gear off, and Brandon was there. And then they went back and got John, and then Lance came. And so we pack up everything is on your back that you need for 10 days. Everything, including cameras that we were self-filming each other with.
Gosh.
And, we've got our 30 nozzler, and he's got pup tents set up. So you don't need your pup tent, but you need your sleeping bag. That's a lot in a pack.
Right.
So the pack was bigger than I am. We had 50-pound limit. We hike it's only about a 45-minute hike on the top of the mountain. You drop just a little bit off, and there in the bowl at the top of the mountain is base camp.
Okay.
So it's so nice the way they have it set up because you're not interfering with the hunt at all. The hunt is below you in the river bottom. And so you're up high every day. The downside of that is when you spot a bear to go after, you're dropping off the mountain. Trust me when I say you do not go after a bear until you weigh everything into account. Do you think we can make it on that bear? Is he walking away or towards us? If he's walking away, I don't care if it's a giant, forget it. You're never going to catch him. Lance
Right.
says we do not go after bears that are walking away. And you just kind of weigh the situation. And I went into this hunt. I've got 18 bears under my belt. I think I know a bit about bears. And I feel like I went to Grizzly Academy 101 with these two.
Right.
They have seen every single bear scenario that exists.
Huh.
They've seen them killing moose calves. They've seen boars killing cubs right underneath a sow's nose. They've seen it all. So I was just a little kid asking 20 questions every single day. But it was really nice. And it's never dark. It's 24 hours of daylight. And we would just walk at the 50 yards up to the ridge, glass. And we'd go back and get a couple hours of sleep, and then glass. So John was up first. And we saw that first night, so you can't shoot, the first day you fly.
Yep. Right.
But we saw 4 bears that night. Yeah. And 2 of them were a boar and sow fighting kind of close to camp. One thing that's really unique there is, grizzlies are different per area you're in. We all see those photographers that are sitting on the edge of the river
Right.
in those parks,
Yeah.
and all grizz are just walking by,
Yeah.
and they're literally walking 10 yards from their lawn chairs. That is not real life scenario. That is Lance was telling us, if these bears, if they see you and don't smell you, they're going to come check you out. If they smell you, they're going to run 5 miles. We watched that over the course of 9 days we were there, where they would walk over where we walked, and they would turn inside out days later and run until we couldn't see them anymore. It was amazing. So that's one thing that's nice about his camp setup is you're not going to be interfering with the hunt in that way much.
Right.
But it wasn't until, and like I said, you don't drop off. It's so much steeper than you think. Like I saw the first day, I'm like, oh my God, I saw a moose skull. I'm like, I'm going to go get that moose skull. I saw this moose paddle. I'm going to go get that. And Lance just laughed. He's like, you're not going to get it. I'm like, what do you mean we're not going to go get him? He's like, you'll see when we drop off for the first time, you're not going to go get him. And he was right. You do not want an extra ounce when you're climbing back up that ridge.
Yeah.
And it's tundra. So it's like step, sink, step,
yeah.
sink, step, sink. But sorry, I'm getting too talky.
No.
No, you're good.
So we saw, we drop off after this bear. I think it was day 4. And it didn't seem that far away, but it took a couple hours to get off the mountain. We saw a bear go into a patch of trees and did not come out. So Brandon stayed back. So you cannot communicate with any kind of walkie-talkies, phones, nothing like that. Not in Alaska. But you can signal. So they have had it down. They've got white garbage bags. And if the white garbage bag is out, Brandon can still see the bear, or you guys are a go. I should say you guys are a go, because he's been watching that stretch of trees the whole time and did not see the bear come out.
Huh.
And so we got down. We got about 300 yards off the little tree line. We sat and waited, and it was about an hour, and all of a sudden, and you're just like, so excited. And then after the hour, it kind of like the sun's out. We had beautiful weather. We were so lucked out. And then all of a sudden, he's like, bear, bear, bear. And so, and I've got the camera, and I'm more nervous when I film than when I shoot. And I've got the camera. John's behind the rifle, and Lance, who knows bears beyond bears, he saw that bear take 2 steps. He goes, but back, stop, sow. I'm like, that's a sow. It was huge, big, beautiful blonde bear. He's like, yep, sow. And so that was a great opportunity for us to learn about this bear. And he's like, watch how she walks around the bushes, not over. They do what's called like, I don't know how can I like a nut drag.
Oh yeah.
You know, the boars. It's black bears do it too. Kind of a nut drag over the bushes.
Yeah.
And he said, and look at her shoulders. The boars will have these Popeye arms. Watch how she walks, and she's not. She's like, just the way they walk, her head, like a dog. Often you'll see a lab, and you can tell a female, male from their muzzle. Her muzzle's going to be skinnier. Just all this great, she's going to have a padonkadonk like black bears.
Right,
when we see that padonkadonk, we probably know it's a sow.
Yep.
So anyway, called it off, sow. So it was super exciting. We got to film her, and we watched her for a while, and she was just working that wind, sticking her nose in the air. But we then did the walk of shame back to camp, climb back to camp. And that was when I'm like, okay, I see why now I'm not going after that moose skull or the paddle. I think it was the next day, day 5, maybe day 6. All the days blend because there's 24 hours of light. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah,
you can literally hunt all 24 hours.
So
it gets a little dusky, but you can still hunt.
You can hunt till you can't hunt.
Yeah. And so when we saw that sow come out, we also did see a pair, a boar and a sow, chasing each other like on the next ridge over, still on our side of the river. And it's funny because we think that was the same boar and sow that was on the other side of the river on like day 3. And Lance, and to me, I'm like, Grizz, how in the world? That's 2 miles away. You think you know those? Oh yeah, that's because of this. He can tell you about the shape and he thinks it's the same pair. So we watched them, but they were, like I said, running away. So it's like, we are not going after that boar right now. There's no way we're going to catch them. So we climb back to camp. The next day, we see that same pair, and I actually spotted them coming out into this little opening, like Lance, bears. And we glance over, and he's like, he knows right away, like, that's a workable bear. Like, we can get there.
Yeah.
So we all get our gear ready. We go back up to our tents, throw on our packs, get our water, everything. We bail off after these 2 bears. Brandon again stays back on the hillside with the garbage bags.
Right.
And so every once in a while, as we're trekking down there, again, it takes hours to get down there. And Lance looks back. We're still a go. White garbage bags are out. And he'll have 2, so boar and sow are out.
Right.
They have it down. These 2 are amazing. And so we get, you can see this on the video. It's really funny. And it's kind of handy cammy because I'm like, we're on the go. I've got the camera in the one hand. So Lance says, okay, stop for a sec. Jana, get your camera off your pack. John, jack around. We're going to get up to this knob, and they should be within 400 yards of us. We take 2 steps, and I, out of the corner of my eye, see the sow come up. And John's looking down, jacking around, and he says to Lance, how far? And Lance goes, 50 yards. And the sow, because they're so much smarter, the sow dropped down and spun around. the boar saw movement and he didn't know what we were.
Yeah.
And then right now I turn the camera's rolling and you can see the boar like, what are you guys? And he starts walking towards us and he's slowly walking. John gets down on one knee to stabilize, but now the dip of he can't see it.
Right.
It's too much in the dip. Lance goes, stand up and shoot him.
I know how that feels.
Oh, yeah, you guys are like,
Yeah,
I know.
yeah.
Lance goes, stand up and shoot him. John stands up and he goes, wait, because he's swinging his head. He's kind of, and when they walk, they just walk like that.
Right.
And obviously you don't want to hit him in the head.
Yeah.
And so he comes up and he lifts his head and he just put a perfectly round in his chest. I'm shaking with the camera.
Oh,
spins the bear, and anyone who's grizz hunted knows if you've got that second, third shot, you take them.
Yeah.
The last thing you want is that bear to run into a thicket wounded,
Right.
Yeah.
and you not know.
Yeah.
That's how guides get eaten all the time. You
Yep.
know, I say eaten because it's more dramatic. Munched on, sometimes killed. It
Right.
really is. And I know a ton of guys that this has happened to. Their guides go in after a shot. The shot looked good, and they
Right.
get munched on.
Yeah.
Yep.
So anyway, 3 shots, boom, 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 onto this bear, all on film. He rolls it, and my amazing husband just loses it. Like so this is funny, talking about non-hunters and anti-hunters.
Yeah.
Our 2 neighbor ladies, they live together. They're, our age, and they came over, and they are not hunters at all. And so the first time they ever came into our house, they're like, wow, you guys really like to hunt. I'm into taxidermy, if people don't know, and we have 50 mounts in our heads in our
Jana,
house.
we all have problems.
Yeah, I know. We all have that addiction, I'm
Yes.
assuming.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And anyway, they came over to watch the episode, and she's like, can we pause it for a sec? And she's like, why is John crying? Like, she didn't understand. I'm like, the emotions of dreaming of what
It's a
this is
lifetime.
like.
Yeah.
And there's adrenaline. This is a grizz. He's coming toward you. It was 36 yards. Like,
Dude.
and she was like, wow. And she was just blown away there. There's that emotion in the hunt,
Right.
especially when it's done. Like, there's your bear. It's done.
Yeah.
Then the tears flow. Anyway, it was glorious. It was so glorious. And then we took care of the bear, of course, got the bear back to camp, and man, it's crazy. So I've never in my 30 years of hunting have ever not skinned out my own animal and packed out my own animal. Lance and Brandon, going back to the worms, they didn't even want us touching the bear. So they had double gloves on, and they were and they skinned that. It was 45 minutes. It was amazing. They had that bear complete paws, skull, everything taken care of, hide rolled up, skull out of the hide, everything in 45 minutes. But he said that they can carry, it's not trick, I can't remember what he called it. And they call it, is it seal finger? Have you guys heard of that?
Oh,
Where
yeah.
if you nick yourself skinning, it gets super infected.
Yeah.
And you're out in the middle of nowhere, and he's like, I don't want you guys touching this bear.
Right.
It was weird to me to not skin out my own animal.
Right.
And then not pack it out. But the hide and the skull alone is 80 to 100 pounds. So it is,
It's like
yeah.
it's a small black bear.
Yeah, I could have packed out just the skull, but
Yeah.
Brandon took the hide, Lance took the skull, we took their spotters and their gear, and we climbed the hill but back to camp. That was the only night we had rain, as when we were hiking back to camp. It was amazing. And then we had snowbanks up there so we could keep everything fresh right in camp. And then it was the second to the last day, and we're sitting around, and I knew that it was a possibility I might not take out, and that's okay. Like, this was already John's dream bucket list hunt. And I look up at Lance. He's up on the ridge above me, 20 yards with his spotter, but his spotter is pointing to the other mountain across the river. Now, back up on day 1, I'm like, Lance, have you ever had to cross that river? And he goes, oh, once. It was horrible. He's like, yeah, it was. I had a 15-year-old with me, 15 or 16-year-old kid. The dad stayed back. We went over after a bear. It took so long to get over there. We lost the bear. We had to stay overnight over there with no overnight gear. It was not good. So, mind you, I've not even really been looking over there in the 8 days, at all, because I'm not going over there.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm like, Lance, what are you looking at? Your spotter's pointed in the wrong direction. And he's like, I'm looking at your bear. I'm like, no, you're not. Like, no, you're not. And he's like, well, we've got a day. We're going to see what he does. And this was this was like 10 o'clock at night. And he's like, he could very well, they could both. It's a boar and a sow. And they were 3 miles away. And you could even see through the scope that this was a toad. This was just a toad boar. And he's like, we need them to come down and cross, but they could. Just like that set
Right.
that we saw earlier. They could
Right.
cross the weather. Where I went to bed. Dear Lord Jesus, please, 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 please. I didn't. The reason being I have horrible balance. The older I've gotten, I have horrible balance. I was so afraid of crossing that river and falling and being hypothermic.
Yeah.
And
Right.
even though it wasn't that bad, when the wind blew sharp, it was freezing cold.
Yep.
And at night, it got below freezing. I was really afraid of just being klutzy, falling, and ruining the day, or getting
Right.
sick, or, just
Right.
hypothermic. So we go, and it was about midnight. He goes, you two get a couple hours of sleep. We'll check in the morning. It felt like we had just fallen asleep, and Lance is shaking the tent. He goes, meet me in the cook tent, 10 minutes. So we go over to the cook tent. The cook tent's just a glorified pup tent, really, where, we're all
Right.
sitting there. And I have to tell you, they did the food right. It wasn't, I thought it would be all like peak meals, right?
Right.
Mountain houses. They had, the pilot one day flew over and dropped bacon. They had fresh eggs.
man.
So, they did it right. It was good. So anyway, we're in the cook tent. I sit down, and I'm seriously nervous. And Lance looked at me and he goes, I need you to promise me you're not going to get hypothermic. I'm like, how does one promise you
Yeah.
they don't get hypothermic? And he's,
I promise.
yeah. How we doing that time? We good?
10:23. We're
Perfect.
good.
And I said, well, how does that happen? And he goes, you just have to listen to me. If you promise to do everything I say, we're going to be just fine. And by this time, I would literally go to hell and back for that guy. Like, I totally trust both him and Brandon. I said, okay. And he goes, we're going across the river. And I'm like, okay. And I've crossed rivers before, but not raging rivers,
Right.
So I was pretty nervous, and we get all the way down there, and we cross the river. But I said, Lance, can I grip your arm and then use my trekking poles? And, for these big, stronger guys, it's not that big of a deal. Brandon looks like a linebacker from the NFL, But I was gripping his arm and probably cutting off circulation. But you can't see past the first 10 yards. So, and it's bouldery. And,
Right.
and we're just in our Kenetrex, right?
Right.
And so, but the one trick, he said, is make sure you pack these sealskin socks. And so once we get across the river, we're soaking wet. It's above my belt. It's
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, on the way back, it was actually up to my armpits because we kind of went in a hole. But we get across, all four of us. Well, Brandon stayed back. Brandon stayed back with the garbage bag thing. We get across. We are soaking wet, but the key was to not stop because you're so cold, you just want to bundle up and stop and warm up. But by the time we hiked up to the top, we were dry. That's how long it took to hike up to the top of the other mountain. And because of wind, we had to go up and way around the bowl that they were in and sit. And then the only thing wet were our boots and our feet. So we take off our wet socks, put the sealskin on, and at least it's a barrier between your wet boot and your foot.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So we waited out above this bowl. All of a sudden, the sow comes out. We're watching her, filming her for a couple hours. But we see the one garbage bag out, so we're like, okay. Well, then we were up there for about a couple hours. All of a sudden, Lance says, pack your stuff up. We're going. We drop. He goes, I think they've gone down to the river. And I'm like, oh, here we go. I literally at that point was like, I just want to live. Like, I was so exhausted, so cold. We drop off the mountain, and he looks up again, and he sees Brandon, like, flipping out. And he's like, I don't know what we're on the wrong bowl. So there were two green bowls at the top of this mountain. We've been sitting on the wrong bowl the whole time.
no.
That pear finally popped out in sight for Brandon.
Yeah.
But for the trees, we couldn't see into the other bowl. We never even realized we were on the wrong bowl.
Right.
We go back up the mountain, run across the mountain top. There they are. And he goes, how close you want to get? I'm like, I'm going to 300 yards.
Yeah.
Like when we were talking about the scenarios of how you want this to go down and all the other hunts the Kuyu guys have been on.
Right.
Yeah.
John wanted in your face. He's like, I don't want it dangerous, but I want adrenaline in your face, which is
Right.
exactly what we got. I'm like, no, I want in the prone, 300 yards,
Yeah.
time to think about it, like,
Right.
no rush. And that is exactly what I got, too. And so
Okay.
I got in the prone, steadied it down, camera rolling, shot, perfect heart shot. He rolls. I get him 2 more times. And then he takes off, but he takes 2 steps, and we can't see him anymore from where we are with the bushes.
Right.
So we gathered up our stuff quick, didn't even really celebrate because I was very nervous about that. Like, I do not want my guide getting hurt because of me.
Right.
And he's not going to let me go in after it. And so we go around, not that I wanted to, but
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
go around the bushes and there he is. He's mere 40 yards from where he was. But it was so exciting. It's such an adrenaline rush. And Brandon, he is a beast. Literally what took us hours, it felt like Brandon was there 40, he saw everything go down through his spotter.
Right.
He hiked down the mountain, crossed the river, hiked back up the mountain to us, and it felt like 45 minutes later, there he is, after we were done with pictures and stuff. But those guys are just amazing. Took care of the bear and we got back down, had a meal cooked a good mountain house peak, whatever, at the river,
Right.
climbed back up to camp. I've never been in a hunt before that if I could have hired the helicopter to come pick me up, I would have. I was so exhausted. And they were perfect, though, at like 10 yards. We'll go 10 yards at a time.
Right.
I was so physically exhausted. By the time we got back to camp, it was 22 hours from when we left
Holy
camp.
moly.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then he goes, I've got good news and bad news. We get done, we go into the camp, we have a hot cocoa. I got good news and bad news. The good news is the pilot's coming to get us. We're going to get fogged out if we wait anymore. The bad news is you got 2 hours to sleep. When you wake up, we're breaking camp. Yeah. So we literally got to sleep, boom, wake up, broke camp, hiked back. Then we changed our flights because we were kind of a day off, caught some red eyes back to. So literally when I got back home and took my boots off, they were still wet.
Oh
I feel so bad for the guys next to me on the flight from Anchorage to Salt Lake City. We hadn't showered in 10 days. We had wet boots on. I guarantee you there was a sour smell on that plane coming from John and I like nobody's business. But it was the most epic hunt of my entire life. And it's all on Skullbound Chronicles, Season 6. You go on Bucket List 1 and 2 for free on Carbon. So,
all right.
Yeah. We did a pretty good job. I am nowhere near my cameraman, Heath Helgert. He is amazing. I wish so much he could have gone on this hunt with us to really capture it. But for just John and I who don't know what we're doing behind the camera, it turned out pretty good.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Carbon TV, where else can we find you?
I'm exclusive on Carbon with Skullbound Chronicles. Chronicles is my on-demand show, so you can pick and choose what you want to watch. I do have my own channel. It's a fast channel. It's on 31 networks. My fast channel is just called Skullbound, and Skullbound is on Carbon. Okay. It's under their live tab or their cams tab. Or on Local Now, sportstv.com. It's literally my own channel, like Discovery Channel or Nat Geo. Okay. And it's just 16 years of Skullbound rotating. You never know what you're going to get from, bow fishing alligators to, grizzlies. You never know. But if they want to watch this grizz, it's Chronicles, Skullbound Chronicles on Carbon. And then social media, I run all my own social. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
Yep.
Fantastic.
Yep.
And Jen is like, she's the female version of the world's most interesting man.
It's true.
No,
it's true.
I'm totally not. I'm just bear addicted. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we could wrap it up because you got to get going.
I do.
Yeah.
So thanks again for coming on.
I'm so glad we finally made this happen. And now I just need to come to Washington, do a hunt with you guys, and we'll do
John
a podcast.
With you, and we'll do a whole predator management one. It will be awesome.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Well, until next time, everybody, stay humble, hunt hard.